Hey, it's Kevin. Welcome back to the Road Warrior. It's been a weird start of fall. The last, almost 20 plus days. It's like we've had cold weather, which you'd expect this time of year, but we've also had exceedingly warm weather. Yeah, we've had, in the span of 48 hours, goes from highs in the 80s to lows in the upper 20s. Yeah, we've had those fronts come through, and it's been crazy. The weather's, not been bad. It's been, milder than normal. But what drives me batty, and again, number one, having a father who did television weather, he was never a meteorologist, but long before you had to be a meteorologist to do weather on television, my dad was a weather person. Did it in Wyoming for a couple of years, did it in Illinois, ended up close to probably 10 years. Almost, 6, 8 years probably, as part of the time he was there. And so I've always had an interest in weather. I actually thought about going to meteorological school. I didn't like science and math enough to want to do it, but probably could have become a meteorologist if I'd wanted to be. The weather fascinates me and I understand everything about patterns. And the biggest problem is our weather people, again, who are all just trying to get ratings, are just constantly whining about the weather. Number one, we're like 6 or 8 inches behind in rain. So, drought. We're worried about, fires and things like that. We're, ban on burning and things like that, which I understand why we do that. It's also not California. It also doesn't get as dry here. We don't have quite the problems they have with the excessive heat. But they just make this like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. We haven't had cold weather. Oh my gosh, it was 82 degrees a week or two ago. That's just so unheard of. You know what? It's not unheard of. Now, granted, the weather is constantly evolving and changing due to climate change. There's no factoring it around that. When you throw in La Nina and El Nino and how that affects everything, that again affects your seasonal weather patterns too. You don't have to be a meteorologist to understand that. But what people aren't getting is, you know what? Every year is slightly different. It's like the Farmer's Almanac, which kind of predicts how the winter is going to be. No two winters are the same. And while they don't always get it right, they're usually, pretty good. Now, how they do that and the tools they use, that I don't understand. I'm sure if I studied enough, it would make sense. But it's fascinating how our TV weather people, all because of ratings, all because weather is such an important commodity on television, that they, try to make it, almost scandalous at times. I was talking with a buddy of mine who worked with in radio back in Ohio, and I said, that's the interesting thing about radio, where in morning or afternoon drive, two of the biggest things we talked about were weather updates and traffic updates. And now we have apps on our phones that do all that for us. If you pay for the Weather Channel app, you can get pretty much not all the tools, but a lot of tools that a lot of the TV stations use. Not quite the mapping, not quite the radar, but you can get a good feel for what the weather's going to be like that day. You may not be able to predict the weather, which is really what they're doing. But again, while I care about what's happening next week, I don't always care about what's happening next week, unless I'm making travel plans or something like that. And even then, if I'm making travel plans, they can't help me out. I could go on about the weather. I'm enjoying the milder weather. We're finally starting to turn a little bit, starting to get more fall-like, and I'm sure a snow or the first extended cold streak will happen, and we'll be complaining about that then too. No complaints from me. Back next week, another Road Warrior. KevinMason.us, home to the Road Warrior videos. Another bump, there we go. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. You got us on the website year-round. Love it when you stop on by. Love it when you hit down below there and hit the like button or hit the thumbs up or whichever site you're using, just to say, hey, I'm here, I love it, thank you very much. And we love it when you tell a friend. Feel free to share. I know it's not really share-worthy comments, but hey, it's worth asking. If you don't ask, you don't do. See you next week with another Road Warrior. Thanks.